PC, what's up?
Justin, how are you
I'm
on this?
doing good. How you doing?
It's a good Thursday, man. What are you up to?
Well, I was actually a member of the Rotary Club. I was on a weed eater all day long.
Doing around tree?
Around trees, around sprinkler trees, 135 marker, you name it. Yeah, we did the whole course.
That's got to take you back in the Wayback Machine, you know?
Circa 1992. Yeah, it did, but it's funny because that was my favorite thing to do back in the day.
Oh, for sure. You go out there with they give you a thing of water and some fuel and some weed eater string. You'd walk for 8 hours just going around every tree.
Exactly.
It was like being Paul Newman and Cool Hand Luke and the Chain Gang. You know, you're just out there doing stuff.
It was fun. It was fun.
Did you do a good job, or were you bad at it?
I did a hell of a job. Now,
Okay.
one thing I'm good at, that's weed eating.
Hey, it's a good.
I might take a little longer than the average person, but I can trim.
No,
So, what's that?
That brings me back in the day as well. You know.
Yeah. Matter of fact, okay, we got you now.
Okay.
So, welcome to the Airgronomics Superintendent Spotlight. You are our second superintendent to be spotlighted and our first high-end private. So there you go.
Rock and roll, baby.
Rock and roll. So this is going to be a different role because normally your role is kind of being the setup guy for the guests that we have on and kind of giving the introduction and stuff. But now you're the one being introduced, so it's a little different role for you.
Good. Okay. All right.
So my introduction, we don't need one. First of all, most of the people know you, and those in the anybody I think west of Nebraska has a pretty good idea who you are. I've got to let everybody know the first time I had an interaction or dealings with you. I don't know if you remember this, but we're at Oak Ridge. I don't think you didn't play in the tournament, did you?
No, it was way too cold. I came up for lunch and education, as I remember. It was about 45 degrees that day.
You stroll in, you sit at the table. I remember it was me, Sean, Scott Allen. I can't remember who else, and you plopped down between me and Scott. And about 5 minutes in, I looked at Scott and I go, "Who the hell is this guy?" He said, "That is Pat Christoffer." I go, "Where's he from?" Mentioned Red Ledges. I said, "You got to be shitting me." I didn't know if you were from the Big T Par 3, Red Ledges, you name it, but you had that personality that could blend and match with anybody in the room. And I thought, I got to get to know this cat. So I heard some of your stories. He mentioned, it wasn't Daytona. Where did you guys happen to go?
Well, we've been all over the place, but I remember the first time you came out to the golf course, you came rolling up. So this is a good story about you. You came rolling up and you're driving that Celica. Where were you driving? Some sort of hatchback thing.
It was probably the 300 Lexus. I don't think it was a hatchback, but yeah.
Yeah, and you pulled up, and I knew you were coming out. And we were going to go look at a few things, just kind of hang out because we had met at Oak Ridge. And you pulled up, and you had a whole trunk full of, mulch and compost and all sorts of different bags. I thought this guy was a superintendent. Why has he got a whole truck full of compost? And different kinds. It was still kind of smoldering and hot. Yeah. And that was my first time I caught you down at Red Ledges. I remember that we ran around a little bit, and that was fun. So that was a long time ago, and it was at least 8-9 years ago, wasn't it?
It was a few years ago.
Yeah.
Good times. Now that we're kind of on the subject of camaraderie.
Yeah. Okay.
And getting to know each other and build relationships, which I think this business is amazing at doing. If you're going to get out of it what you put into it, as far as not only with your golf course, but as far as with people and your peers. Do you agree with that?
Oh, for sure. For sure. Absolutely.
So I had the opportunity to sit on the chapter's board with you as a president, and that's kind of the first time that we had those dealings. in that setting, and gained an amazing amount of respect. First of all, those that know you know that you're not a yes person. You're not just going to go with the flow, whatever, and that's what I liked. You had some thoughts, some concept and ideas. You wanted those integrated. They might have not have been the norm marching in step orders that a lot of people deal with, but I love the fact that if you felt strong about something, you were not afraid to voice your opinion. Hence, when I happened to become the president, I tried to emulate exactly what I had learned from you, and I hope
that's not a good road to go down in life. Don't emulate me.
Well, I guess it worked, but I think we both set out and did a few things and accomplished a few things that we wanted to accomplish, and hopefully left the chapter a little bit better than we found it. But that was my goal.
I think why is always a good question to ask when you're in a business setting, right? It's like, why do you do something? I think we get caught up in convention and it becomes kind of an established way of doing things, but it doesn't always mean it's the right way to do things. So for me, I've always kind of liked why do we do that? Is there a better way? Does that make sense? And you ask the question, you try to listen and try to find a good avenue to go down there. And I think the why is an important part of it. And I know with you too, with the chapter, I'm still really proud of the work we did with the benevolent fund, and turfgrass education is very important. Networking is very important, but the ability to help some folks when they were down in their luck, and the benevolent fund, and being able to help make a difference when people are down in their luck, I think that's really been important to me. And that's something that's going to last, I think. And so that was something I was really proud of that you and I worked on together with the board and with Natalie and all those guys. And I think it's a really cool thing that when something unfortunate happens, we're in a position now where we can kind of help a little bit. So that's been cool. And you did a really good job with that. So.
Well, and I agree. I think we kick-started it under your regime, was able to continue it. And I think those that are going to come behind us, that's not the right term, follow us in leadership, are going to keep going for years. It's not something that's going to go away, and it'll only be built upon. And like I said, if we're remembered for nothing else, the fact that we helped set that up is a great legacy, I think.
I agree. And you always hope that something you do, whether it's in your career and your family, will maybe live on or be a little bigger than you. I think that's a reasonable goal for all of us to have in whatever we do. But I think that's something that's bigger than us. And I think it's something that hopefully will continue for a long time and help folks when things aren't all that good.
I couldn't agree more. Let's get on a little lighter note, and we're going to shift a lot of gears here. Back to the networking, camaraderie, giving that back what you put in. We had the opportunity to stay in what we call and what is known as the frat house in San Diego. And I want you to touch on a few points there, kind of what you came away with, the people that you met, the relationships, and kind of what you thought of that week at the GIS.
I think that was such a cool experience because you have a group of people that are focused on turf in this case, and they were focused on their business and really hyper excited about it. And you put them in a room where you're having breakfast together and you're having dinner and you're just kind of enjoying each other's company. It always leads to some great conversations about how you do this business. And I think from that, you're not just getting ideas and exchanging ideas, but you're getting motivated and excited. And I think if you can keep that energy up and be around people that are excited to not just about turfgrass, but excited about producing good employees and having a good product, then you kind of feed off of that. And so I thought it was a great trip for that singular thing, to be around people that were like-minded, energetic. I mean, that's exciting stuff, right? If you could do that all the time, I mean, you're unstoppable. So it was a great trip in that respect.
I laugh at this. This is the one thing I really remember from that. We all stroll in, we had our meetings, we had our classes, and you stroll in. We got kind of a room full. There was Ross Lobsher, I believe Clay was there. We had a fair amount of people in the room. Chad was there, and you sat everybody down and go, okay, guys, 5 minutes. What was the best class that you took today, and what did you learn? Everybody's got 5 minutes to go over this. And so it was a cool roundtable of kind of what we got actually out of the show. And that's just kind of how you are. You're definitely the quarterback of the organization. You're going to take charge. You're going to say, here's what we're going to do. And everybody got a lot out of it.
Well, and I think you see so many different things. It's kind of that sharing of information, and it's always a two-way street. I mean, if you're going to share, the other person's going to share. It's not just, hey, one person talks, but it was cool to hear what people thought was important. And we're all at the point in our careers now that if you can pick up one thing from a show like that, it's pretty important. And I think we might have picked up 2 or 3 from that show, which is, at this point in all of our careers, is pretty amazing when you can catch a couple things that you can implement, you can use.
I couldn't agree more. And like I said, I probably learned more in the living room around you guys. And it was fun when you and Ross were having some pretty deep dive conversations. Sometimes you learn more just sitting back and not saying a word, which I don't do very often. I learned more just kind of listening to the conversations in the room. And like I said, that's a priceless environment. I hope that we can do it again in the near future.
Yeah, for sure.
Tell me, how did you start in the business? Now, your dad's academic, correct?
Yeah, both my parents were teachers. Yes.
Okay. Yep. How did you get into this line of work, come down this path, decide to go to Washington State? Let's hear a little bit about this.
By accident? Is that a fair way? It's funny, and we can contradict this to you being in the business your entire life, because I was not. My parents were school teachers. I grew up north of Seattle, Washington, so a little farm community, very old school town. The old farmers would still drive their tractors to town for biscuits and gravy and talk high school football. It was that kind of place, and we were 20 minutes from the coast and 20 minutes from climbing Mount Baker, and an hour from the Canadian border. You could go up there and watch the old Canadian Pacific trains bring lumber down from Golden and Revelstoke. And it was a great place to grow up. And I just happened to start working on a golf course in high school, Skagit Golf and Country Club. And we had maybe 5 of us that worked there, and you could do whatever you wanted. You wanted to work on irrigation, you wanted to fix equipment, you name it, we could do it. And it was a great summer job. But I still at that point had no plans of being in the turf grass business. Played ball for a few years in college and couldn't hit, couldn't run, couldn't throw, and ended up finishing up my ag degree at Washington State, got my MS at Washington State, and it turned out I was a lot better at books than I was at ball. And then, worked throughout the West, and I've been at Red Ledges now 13 years, I believe. We've built 2 courses here. And it's been a really good run, a great family to work for that owns it, an incredible property. And I don't know if that makes me feel good or old to be here that long, but it's been a heck of a run. I've been doing this 25 plus years now, in some great places. I've met some great people, and I've been pretty lucky to be at the places I have and to be at Red Ledges for 13 years now. So I've done pretty okay. And that's because I've been around a lot of good people over the years.
Now, I do happen to know some of the places that you've been. I've had the opportunity to be at some of those places, not as an employee, but just go there and tour some of the facilities, and they were awesome. You want to touch on those of you that may not know you, to kind of give them a background of some of the properties that you've been at?
Yeah, so at the beginning of my career, did a little stint at a place called the Stock Farm in Hamilton, Montana. That was kind of between undergrad and grad school. During grad school, we worked with Scotts and Monsanto on some projects throughout Oregon. Was also at the Glacier Club in Durango, Colorado. We did the construction, grow-in, and renovation there.
That might be one of the coolest properties I've ever stepped foot on.
It's a peach, right?
It is.
You're tucked up there in the San Juans, and the San Juan Mountains, for those of you who haven't been there, they're these big, giant, craggy mountains. I mean, it's like you've gone to Austria and got stuck in there. And it's a beautiful place to live, a beautiful town in really big, big mountains. And the Glacier Club was a cool product. And I was not looking to leave there. until the folks with Troon and Red Ledges talked to me about doing this project. And like I said, this is home now. Utah's home. I feel part of the community. My family's a part of the community. Both my children were born here. I've kind of gone from a young man to an old man here. So like I said, I've been some neat places, and most of it's because I've been around really good people that for whatever reason showed me a few things. I think maybe they took pity on me, but and I'm able to remember that stuff and implement it. So it's been a good run, man. I hope we can keep on cranking them out.
You did mention that you've been around good people and you surround yourself with good people. I know a few of them. I had the opportunity. Mark Hansen's one that you worked with.
Yep.
Great people. Who would you consider in this industry? Actually, who would you consider in life? Name a couple of your mentors.
This sounds a little strange, but I've never felt like I've had one person that was the end all. I think you meet people in life and you take stuff from them. You learn from them, whether it's good or bad. Both are important. And I don't know if you gain those things from osmosis or you gain those things by just paying attention. But I know for me, I've been around hundreds of people that I've learned stuff from. And I've always kind of figured you can go through life staring at your feet, or you can look up and sort of look around you. And if you take the time to look and listen, you're going to pick stuff up. And that's how I've kind of always done it. I mean, there's so many things to learn from so many people that if you can just pay attention and be quiet once in a while and listen, gosh, you're going to pick up a lot of good stuff. And for me, that's how I've always kind of done it. Just tried to be around good people and let the chips kind of fall where they may from there.
How old are you, Pat?
I am 43.
43. You know, It's kind of funny because usually when we look at a mentor, they're probably the generation before us. You know, it's that older guy that took us under his wing and taught us a lot of what he knew and would just kind of spoon feed us knowledge. I have no problem admitting to anybody that you're probably one of my top 3 mentors. And you don't very often see somebody that's younger than you that you'd admit to being a mentor. I'm almost 48, but meeting you, and it's not, me and you, we have some pretty good, I would consider some pretty good geeked out turf talks.
Sure.
That are a lot of fun. And we also have some really good life talks.
Sure.
And I really value you as a person. You're kind of the big little brother, you know.
Okay.
You're that little brother that I look up to, and you know, we came through different paths. You're very academically well-rounded. You have an amazing background in academics. Matter of fact, your nickname to many in the industry and here in Utah is the Lump. Didn't know if you knew that, but yeah,
no.
I mean, you know, Haddock started it, but you're kind of the Lump, and I came through the back door. But that's the amazing thing about this industry is we can still have those conversations. We can still get a lot out of each other, but you do things, like I said, you're a little bit against the grain. You don't do the norm on a lot of aspects, be it, you know, through agronomy, basically through life. I like that.
Sure.
I guess I want to surround myself with somebody that can challenge myself, and you're definitely that individual.
That's what it's all about, right? Getting out of your comfort zone, growing a little bit. I think the more we all do that, the more we challenge convention, the more we challenge our own mind to think, you just make a better self, you know? And so that's what I've always been excited about being around you too. It's just fun too. I mean, it's fun to talk and think and do all those things. So I've been pretty lucky to hang out with you over the last, 8 or 9 years or whatever.
Well, enough with the love fest.
Love fest. All right.
Yeah. How about them Pirates? Yeah.
How about them, Cap?
So Utah is home. Okay.
Yep.
You touched on Utah being home. Yeah. And this is a goofy question, but you didn't grow up here. You're
Nope.
not of the faith.
Mhm.
You move into an area that is extremely of the faith, that unless you basically have the same last name of a lot of the people, it's kind of hard to get in and blend and be one of them, but you're so community driven and you care so much about that value in your community. Do you see yourself going anywhere? Or is this where like you said, this is home, but do you see yourself sticking around here?
No, I don't want to go anywhere. I am lucky to work for a great family. I have a great membership at Red Ledges, and our management team down through our folks that only work for a couple months in the summer. We've built an incredible team at Red Ledges, and I've been lucky because I have options. You know, I can do other things, but I want to be here, and it's a great place to live. And to be honest, the same reason that we're able to sell real estate to our members is the same reason that I wanted to come here. It's a great place to raise a family. It's a heck of a place to live. You know, and it's a place to be, and I really like it here. And one of the things about Utah and about the Heber Valley in particular is that sense of community. And I think that does come from faith, especially our faith in Utah. We believe in community and we believe in helping others out. And I think that comes from the time we left the Missouri country back in the day and had to come out here, because if we didn't, we were going to get shot by folks. You know, I mean, that leads to some pretty tight community. And that's one of the things that I really like about Wasatch County and living here is that sense of community. And I have no problem going down to Swiss Days in Midway and cooking Swiss scones or Swiss roast beef, whatever it needs to be. So it's an important part of it.
That's awesome. Well, that's the state. We're glad to have you. It's been awesome. You have no problem getting off the golf course and having a little fun.
Sure.
You're not 100% work driven. You definitely know how to play. Share with some of your hobbies. I know a few of them, but share with me some of your hobbies and what you like to do when you're not working.
So yeah, my hobbies, and there has to be a balance of all this, right? I mean, you know, you have to have a balance between your family and work and still have a hobby even as we get older. What do I do for fun? Well, I am a part-time shortstop on a below average co-ed softball team. I think we've been finishing, you know, middle lower pack for a long time, but we're hanging in there. We're working on some new players this year, so hopefully that'll be better. I've got a little drift boat, little rubber boat. We can run down rivers and down canyons. So that's been a great thing for the family. I'm the world's worst avid fly fisherman. So I don't know if I'm good at fly fishing, but I'm good at walking to places where others aren't. And I think I'm a pretty fair skier. If you hear me tell it, I'm probably the best skier in Utah. But I've always enjoyed skiing. I've always enjoyed being out in the mountains. I've always enjoyed climbing mountains on skis and coming back down. So that's been a passion of mine for a lot of years, and something that what better place to do it than the great state of Utah.
Boy, they're going to hire you for the travel bureau.
Chamber of Commerce Day every day.
Yeah. So back to the skiing. I know a few guys that can get down the mountain pretty well.
Yeah.
Thomas Bastis and Mark Hoban not being two of them. But
they tried. Yeah, that was fun to take those guys out.
But name the top 5 skiers in our chapter.
Well, I'm number 1. So I'm 1 and 2.
Okay.
First 2 spots. So Haddock's pretty solid, right?
Uh-huh.
Scott Allen's pretty solid. Who else do we need to stick in?
That little bowling ball.
You got to talk to him about growing up out in Burley, Idaho way. So they would ski up there. His high school got burned down when he was a senior. And so he had class in the morning, but not in the afternoon. He would go skiing every single day after class was over. So he got pretty good at skiing. I love him telling that story. He's a heck of a skier. So is Haddock.
Okay. And who are the soups that could keep up?
Mike Valiant's a pretty good skier. I've skied with him a little bit. I haven't skied a lot of the other guys, to be honest with you. Those guys get down the mountain pretty good, though. You know, Haddock's a good skier. He used to telemark and drop the knee. He was a pretty good skier. So I know he feels bad that I'm better than him, but that's just the way it goes, man. Somebody's got to be number one.
That's awesome. As far as a young kid, you've got and you do a lot of interviewing. You see a lot of kids. You see a lot of interns that want to come up in the business. You've got an 18-year-old kid that doesn't know quite what he wants to do. What words of advice are you going to give a kid that might want to get into the turf world right now?
Don't, is that a word? I mean, that's probably what I tell them. I mean, it's a wonderful business. It's been good to you and it's been good to me, but it's a tough business. There's a lot of demands. You're dealing with something that's inherently unpredictable, such as turf grass. You're dealing with the only game in the world where that interface between the game itself and the ground is integral. And there's a lot of demands put both on you and your time. And it's a tough thing to get into. It's a tough thing to maintain. It's a tough thing to keep your mental wits about you for not just a couple years, but for a 50-year career, right? So if you're going to do it, you need to love the game. You need to love hard work, and you need to be willing to put in the time and learn. If you're willing to do those things, I think you can be really successful in this business. But it's not, gosh, I love golf, let's go be a superintendent. No, that's not what this is. This is urban farming. It's hard work. It's sun up to sundown. And it takes a lot of your time. It takes a lot of your soul. And if you're willing to do that, yeah, you can make it. But if that isn't your cup of tea, be careful what you want to do.
Okay, speed round.
Oh, boy, here we go.
You flip on your iPod right now. What 3 bands are going to be playing back to back to back?
So I was listening to Tom Petty, Led Zeppelin, and we had a little bit of Stones in there this morning. I was kind of listening to it. So those kind of came on this morning. Usually it's a lot of bluegrass, but I'm not afraid of some Katy Perry or whatever else, you know. Whatever comes on, I'm good with. Little Hank Williams Jr., you name it.
Books that you've read this last year that you think people maybe should open?
Don't read any modern books that are dealing with modern times. I've tended to read in the old ones of late. Guy named Ivan Doing, who's a Western writer, who's written some great stuff. Any of his stuff, I've just finished up one of his. Wallace Stagner, who's a Utah writer who's amazing. And then I just read a little one by a guy named Red Shuttleworth, who I knew back in the college days, who's a great writer. But yeah, I kind of read the old stuff. Sometimes the modern stuff kind of bums me out a little bit. So read that kind of stuff and just kind of keep going. A lot of children's books these days. Okay. The Little Engine That Could's been good of late. So that.
Oh man.
Mike Mulligan and the Steam Shovel's been pretty good of late. We've been reading that one a lot. So yeah, the kids' books have been good too. So it's cutting into my reading time, but that's okay.
You know, we mentioned the fly fishing, the hiking, the skiing. We didn't mention that is riding one of your top passions?
Writing's funny. It's never something I set out to want to do. I really like it. I really like trying to write. I'm not a writer. Those guys are amazing that can actually write on a consistent basis. It takes me a long time to do it, but I do enjoy writing. You and I have written some stuff together. I think it's really fun to do. And I think a good writer, a good speaker, they tend to speak from their own experience. They tend to try to say what's true, you know, and that's the kind that I like. Somebody that can take their experience and say really the truest thing they know. And I hope that maybe someday I'll write a sentence or two that kind of makes sense, that people will enjoy, that maybe is a little bigger than myself. I think that's a reasonable goal for all of us. You know, in the modern era with Twitter and Instagram, we tend not to write things a little longer or put the time into it. But I've always wanted to put the time into it, and hard writing, really working at it, I think makes for pretty good reading. So, you know, yeah, I enjoy it. I don't do it enough. I'll never be a writer, but when I put my mind to it, sometimes I try pretty hard at it.
You made a shitty drive to Wendover seem interesting.
It is interesting.
Evidently, you can ride if you made a drive to Windover sound interesting.
Think about it out there, man. Where else in the world do you have that much flat, right? I think I called that story the infinite flat ahead, right? Yeah. Flat's wonderful. I mean, it's some, you know, and I love that drive. Window down, Oakley sunglasses on, you know, that salt air is kind of blowing through, you know, AM radio on. That's American, right? That's good.
That is Americana. Okay, and our final question. Your dream foursome, dead or alive?
Dead or alive. Well, I'd want to play with Jack. I've done enough of his work that would be solid. I'd like to get my dad back in there. I think he passed away a few years ago, but and he beat the heck out of me last time we played. He clobbered me good, and he was beating me up pretty good last time we played. And I don't know. One of the presidents that played golf. I think Bush played golf, and Clinton. Trump plays golf. Any one of those guys would be solid to play with, get a little round in. So one of the presidents, my dad, and Jack. That'd be okay. They get to give me some strokes, though, I think.
That's awesome. Well, PC, you're the best. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. I know when you're not at work, when you're not playing, that you definitely value your family time with your beautiful wife, which we see in the background, and the little ones. And so thanks for taking time out and kind of sharing with the world a little bit inside of what goes on in Pat Christoffer's mind. Well,
I don't know. We don't want to share too much of that. It could be a nightmare. But no, and thanks for doing this too. I think it's neat that you've both done these podcasts and then these interviews too. I think it's a neat thing you're doing, and I think folks are really going to enjoy this part of it. So thanks for being such a good supporter of the industry, really.
Thanks, brother. Hey, have a great rest of the day.
Will do. We'll talk to you later, buddy. Thank you.
Love you, man. Bye.
All right.